Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Corey Longnecker talking about Foundry VTT. For this episode today, we are actually going to be discussing something fairly simple, but something that is great for personalization, and that's character sheets. Within Foundry, there have been several modules to change, update, modify the default character sheet into something more useful, more user-friendly, or just something that maybe fits with the way you like to organize things. Everyone kind of sees things differently and likes things laid out a little bit differently on their character sheets. And this is a great way to just kind of dive in and pick one that works for you. The other thing that's going to be useful here is there's one specifically, that I'm going to talk about that is great for like treasure chests or barrels or anything that you might have loot in, or items kept in. It's a way to organize that kind of equipment in something. So I think I'm gonna talk about 5 different sheets today. There's a couple more out there, but these are the 5 that I found are either the most popular, or I have used them, or I do use them in some capacity. So let's go ahead and get started. You'll see the map is still up from last time. But what we're going to do now, I've already downloaded these modules, these character sheet modules. So I'm going to go into the settings, and I'm going to enable them so that they are available. So it's going to take me a second here because I've got, the way Foundry does it, it doesn't stop it per world. It's through every world. So I've got one called Sky's Alternative 5th Edition Sheet. Better NPC Sheet 5e. We've got D&D Character Sheet for 5e. The Loot Sheet NPC. The Tidy 5i sheet. Just want to make sure that I've got them all. Yep. So we're going to save that, and it's going to drop everything back in here. Quick thing so I don't have to mess with this. Let's just go ahead and drop that there. Oh, I don't have to worry about zooming out every time. So I've got my character here, and I've got the sheets enabled. So let's go through and talk through some of the settings. So I went to the configure settings from the settings menu, and let's talk about some of these things. So Loot Sheet is what I was just talking about. Loot Sheet is a fantastic little add-in, and it's a way to organize stuff. Barrels or chests or anything that you'd want to stash loot in. It's really good. So something that's really neat is when you drag a spell into it, it creates a scroll, or it can create a scroll, and that's what this toggle is for. And that's really neat. It's a way to be able to dish out spell scrolls to your players if they find stuff. Display chat messages for purchases. Something else Loot Sheet does is it has 2 functions. One, it's got the function of being able to put things in it, but 2, you can set it up like a shop. It could be as if a shopkeeper is running it. So you could have a list of things that a certain shop in town has for sale, and you can tweak things in and out that way. And you can do some other cool stuff. It's got a neat feature about using a percentage to lower the price or raise the price. So you could have maybe your PCs want to try to barter, and they're rolling, some charisma checks to try to entice the shop owner to lower his prices, and it backfires. Well, maybe the prices suddenly just go up a little bit, and you can drop a percentage on it, and it applies to everything. And that's really neat. The other thing here is display chat message for purchase. So anything purchased from the sheet will be dropped in chat. That's a personal preference. And then here, if enabled, all existing items will be moved from the sheet before adding new items from the rollable table. Not something I like to do. I kind of like to have more control over it, but for some people that's that for them. The Tidy 5e sheet is a really cool one, and I'll show you all of them, but I'll just talk through it real quick. There's a dark mode in it if you want to turn that on. You can choose your accent colors, primary and secondary. You can use round portraits if you want, as opposed to the square portraits. You can choose the border width. Like, there's so much control you have. I'm not going to go over all of these things because there's a lot of them, and it's really more important for you to read through them and see what you like. But I'll show you what the sheet looks like, and that's pretty cool. Sky's alternate 5th edition sheet. That's a really cool sheet to look at. And then the better NPC sheet. And this is great for DMs to be able to streamline their NPC sheets a little bit more. So we'll go ahead and save that, even though I didn't change anything. And we'll go through and we'll start with C. And you can, I'm just going to make sure that some of these things are right in here by double right clicking on it. That's all I need for now. So I'm going to double left click on her. And I've got her character sheet. This is just, if I click up here on sheet, this is the default D&D Alt 5e sheet. It's just what the default looks like. So let me start with the D&D Beyond character sheet. And you'll notice that there's no option for the loot sheet because it's a playing character. Not going to happen. So this is what the alt sheet looks like. You've got your ability scores going down the side. Let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. Damage resistances and traits and everything down the left-hand side. You've got all your skills here. And then she's a paladin, so she's got Lay on Hands, Divine Sense, Channel Divinity. Those are there. Armor class, hit points, hit dice, initiative, all that stuff's around here. Click on inventory. It's got a list of all of her stuff. Money is kept here, so you can see the currency. And then it breaks it down into actions, bonus actions, reactions, and equipped items. If you see, you click one, you click off of it. So this was only going to show the actions. This is going to show the actions and the bonus actions. Everything you highlight is going to add or remove from it. So that's something to look at. It's pretty neat. Features. The Vengeance Paladin, the different active abilities, passive abilities. And again, you can break that down into what's an action, what's a bonus action, what's a reaction. Spellbook. All the different spells that she has. You can break them also into what's a ritual, what's prepared, what's what's an action, what can be cast as a bonus action, all that stuff. What requires concentration. It's a really, really easy way to be able to filter those things out. Biography, all her stuff in here. And then any private notes, like you could do personal journals or any additional notes like that. So it's a pretty good, straightforward sheet. But let's skip over here and let's apply, and just so you know what these are, there's two options here. This is her default sheet, or what sheet she's using, and she's currently using the default sheet, and this is the default sheet here. And what this is all PCs will have this as their default. So you can change the default so everyone uses the same thing, or you can do it this way so that each individual has their own. So we'll just skip around in here. She's got the alt. Let's look at the Tidy 5e sheet and look at the difference. So immediately you'll see a pretty big difference in that her icon is half red. And what that does is it shows like effectively a percentage of her hit points. So you can see visually, and this applies also on her token down here. It should. Doesn't. That would be cool if it did. Let's see if it does there. Nope. Okay. Anyhow, but you can see it visually there what that looks like. Other things that this has got in it is levels of exhaustion, whether to take a long or a short rest, and whether the character is inspired or not, and how much inspiration they have. Furthermore, you'll see the strength and modifiers here. You'll see all of the skills here, and then traits are down here. It's a little more clean. Also these things here, and then it breaks everything else over a little bit. So here's inventory. Again, action, bonus action, reaction, what's equipped. Money is down here, and it also shows you carrying capacity. Features, basically the same. Spellbook, basically the same. Bio, almost identical, and journal is basically laid out just a little bit different. So this is a very similar sheet, but it's got some nice extra features like this up here, and it's a little tidier in my opinion. It's a little tighter. Things are laid out. It's a little bit smaller, but it makes it a little bit easier to put a lot of information on one page. So that's the Tidy 5e sheet. Let's look at the Actor Sheet 5e. Again, this has moved a couple things over. Some of these traits go over here, so they're not all the way down the side. These are a little bit bigger and easier to read, and then you've got everything else here as well. Inspiration, death saves, exhaustion are over here. Inventory is basically the same. Features, spellbook, bio. Bio is laid out a little bit differently, a little bit easier to read in my opinion. But that's the actor sheet. And then finally we've got the D&D Beyond 5e character sheet. Now this is big. This takes up a lot of space, and as you can see, it's really eaten up your stuff here. Now something that I will get into, I'll just bring it up now. There's another module called Pop Out, and what it allows you to do is pop these out into a separate window so that you could have your map on one and your character sheets and stuff like that on another. And for this one in particular, that's useful. However, this one is put together to really mimic the D&D Beyond sheet. So it's got, saving throws here and death saves. The proficiencies are laid out really well, what kind of damage resistances, stuff like that. And then Lay on Hands pool, Divine Sense, it's got all of the skills. And then all of the actions and inventory, features, spellbook, bio, all down here. So this is a little bit bigger of a sheet, and it's, let's see if it lets me. Yeah, you can still make it smaller, but it really I think struggles with stuff in that there's so much information. So if you're using Pop Out, this could be a very good sheet for you, especially if you're used to D&D Beyond and you're just playing within Foundry. My personal opinion, I really do like the Tidy sheet. Tidy sheet is currently my favorite. It's what I run on my other games. I like the visuals here, and I just like how much, I don't know, just tidier it is. So that's the playing character sheets. Let's look at, let's just make an NPC. So here's Test, our NPC, and if you'll see here, it automatically brings up the possibilities for NPC sheets. So again, you could use the Tidy 5e. Let me bring that over. And that's what that looks like. We could look at the Better NPC Actor sheet, and that's what the factory one is, and you can look and see it's just very bare bones, very scaled down. Actor sheet 5e NPC. Here it is again with the various things laid out. Features, spellbook, bio. There's, I kind of like the Better NPC. I just like having it all there. It lays it out. It's small. Let me bring in something from the compendium, and you can really see what it would look like. So let's bring an Acolyte in here, because that's got a little more information. So here is the Actor Sheet 5e NPC. Features, spellbook, bio, all that stuff is in here. Let's change it to the better NPC. It's a lot more scaled down. I can add cantrips. I can add spells. That's what this is down here. You know, it's got all that stuff down here. Spell book, any actions or features. You know, you can build new things in here. Really, really neat stuff. You can expand and minimize stuff. So it's tidied up a little bit. You can go between the bio and the attributes if you want to stuff, and then you can really detail into customization with the cog up here. And that's the better NPC actor sheet, which is pretty nice, versus the regular one like this. So that's a personal preference, however you want to get into it. Let's take a look now at what the loot NPC sheet would be. So you're going to create it the same way in that you would... Here, let's do it this way. We're going to create an actor. We're going to call this treasure chest. And it's going to be an NPC sheet. So we're going to create treasure chest. And you'll see here it does the normal stuff that a normal sheet would be. But we're going to change it to the loot sheet. But I'm not going to change the default sheet. I'm going to do this individually. So now we have a much different layout here. You'll see it's the type of sheet. It's either loot or merchant. Permissions, coin distribution. So this is neat. So if you have, maybe there's 100 gold in this treasure chest and you've got players, you can split it, 3 ways, 4 ways, however many players you have. It's got, availability for all these things here, and you can just drag and drop in there. So let's go ahead and pull up a compendium. Let's just pull up the SRD items. And let's say there's some random stuff in here. Let's say we've got a vial of acid. We drag and drop. It puts it in consumables. It gives an approximate price and however number of them there are. We've got some adamantine plate armor. It's worth 2,000 gold. And you can delete and edit, and you can actually loot this and give it to somebody. You've got, what else do we have in here? We've got a bag of sand. We've got a backpack. Got, let's see, maybe we've got an abacus. And let's just find a tool here. Maybe there's a hammer. And a sledgehammer. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff in here. Oh, let's do a spell too. So let me drop this in here. So I closed out of items. Let's go into the SRD spells. Maybe there is Alter Self. And there is Cone of Cold. It's a pretty good chest. So you'll see that it has now been created and turned into a scroll. It tells you its value and everything there, and it breaks it down. You can still click on it, and it tells you what it is. If you click roll, it basically just tells you what it is in the chat, so you could share that. I'd have to have this token here first, but it's kind of cool. I can go in, I can edit it if I want to, or I could delete it. So that's what's there. And then I can apply the price modifier there if I want to, although it doesn't make much sense when it's in a certain thing. So that's what these are. That's how the loot setting is. Now let's say I want to build a merchant, okay? And we'll create a new one. We'll call this Sam the Seller. We're going to change the sheet type to loot sheet. We're going to make this a merchant. And you'll see here the merchant settings have changed. If you had a rollable table that would randomly drop stuff in here, you could roll on that and it would randomly populate that sort of thing. So you could build a rollable table full of all sorts of stuff, and you could choose to drop it in there. which is a pretty cool thing. So let's say he's got some spells. I'm just going to go quickly because it's not really all that important for you to see each individual thing. And then let me just drop some items in here at random. We'll go from the bottom because there's some fun stuff. A vicious longsword and just a spell book, silver horn of Valhalla, potion of speed, and orb, mess kit. Some random stuff. Mason's tools. There. Let's say this is what Sam the Seller has in his shop. And you can see all the prices for things and how many he has. And yeah, you could say, I'm going to do a price modifier. They did a pretty good job. Let's drop the price a little bit. And that drops it effectively by 10%. So it's at 90% of its normal price. Or maybe they fail it and you're going to mark it up a little bit. And now it's, 25% over what it would normally be. So that's the way that works. Now it's back to regular price. And that's, what all this applies to this rollable table here, and that's why that came up. The formula for how many they have, you could type in however many you want in here, and the item quantity, you could do that there. So you could have formula for, they've got 2D50 items in their shop, and they have 2D, they have 1D4 plus 1 of each. So that guarantees you that there's at least 2 of everything, or 1D4, whatever you want to do. But that's what that would be with the rollable tables. You could apply a rollable table to this. And that's the loot sheet. I think it's fantastic. I use it all the time. It's one of my favorite modules that I've added to Foundry. And those are the basics. So that's, your basic sheets and how to use them within Foundry, both for NPCs, for loot, for shops, and for PCs. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. I'm trying to be pretty vigilant with answering them as they come up. And yeah, we'll get into, I think next time I'm going to get into some quality of life stuff, some things that make running the game a little bit easier, a little bit of automation, and some stuff for GMs. So thank you for joining. If you haven't checked out our podcast, Vice and Villainy. It's on all of the majors, Spotify and Google and Apple. Taking a little bit of a break from it right now, feeling a little creative drop there. I'm trying to put some effort into here to rejuvenate some of that creative flow elsewhere. But yeah, this is fun, and don't forget to subscribe and click that notification button. And we'll be back when I can to do another video. So thanks everybody. Take care.